Welcome to your DeepSides assembly guide. Start your assembly process with cutting all the long lengths of steel and aluminum. Depending on your cutting setup, start with the steel tube as per the deductions in the assembly manual. Make sure that all safety and personal protective equipment is used during the assembly process. Ensure all safety equipment and guards are operating effectively and operational training has been provided. Cut all profiles, including the cassette front and back, bottom rails, and outer side channels. Depending on your setup, similar profiles may be cut simultaneously as long as all safety clamps are used. If the system you are assembling requires a central lock assembly, cut the flat bar to the lengths detailed in the assembly manual and ensure the ends are cut to a 45-degree angle. Mark the center of the bottom rail and line up the mark with the guide. Drill a 3 mm hole and using the screw provided secure into place. For single-sided central lock operation, only route through the front. For a dual control, you will be routing through the front and back. Remove the template. Keep the screw as this is used to secure the central lock. Countersink the pilot hole with a 10 mm drill bit so the screw head finishes flush with the extrusion face. With the previously cut flat bar, place the longer of the two bars onto the inner plastic drive block from the central lock kit and the shorter bar into the central lock mechanism. Drill a 3 mm hole and with the blunt screws provided fix the bars to the block and central lock mechanism. Insert the central lock mechanism into the bottom rail extrusion. Slide in all the way and locate into position using the screw that was used to secure the template. Attach the front handle to the side of the sliding lock mechanism that has been inserted. From the central lock mechanism, insert the return spring into the bottom rail on the opposite end. Insert the other flat bar that has the inner plastic drive block attached, pushing the spring into the central lock mechanism. Push the flat bar in so that the screw port on the central lock mechanism is visible and can be lined up with the central lock handle and carefully screw into place. For a dual operation, you can now attach the back handle. Do not over-tighten as the handle should be able to slide. For larger width awnings over 3 m, a locking bar support can be inserted. By using another piece of flat bar, you are able to push the guide into a central supporting position. You can now locate and secure one end of the bottom with an end cap and screw into position. Slide on the weather strip if required as part of the system, from the opposite end. Silicone-free spray may help this process over wider widths. Cut and secure the weather strip into place using the screws provided with the end caps. For a sliding tongue bottom rail system, measure in 145 mm from both the left and right hand sides and make a mark that will be used to line up the router template. Starting on the left hand side, line up the mark and the template arrow and secure into position using a clamp. Use the large router hole marked 1 as your guide for the router. You will only be routing through the front of the bottom rail. Once the first hole has been completed, move to the right hand end. Rotate the router template 180 degrees and place on the bottom rail, lining up the mark and arrow of the template. Once the route holes have been cleaned and cleared of any metal swarf, you can start assembling the slide tongue assembly. Insert the plastic slide tongue support into the bottom rail. Use the stainless steel slide tongue to push into place in the bottom rail. Insert the slide tongue into the plastic support and screw the thumb screw into the threaded hole on the slide tongue. Insert the DeepSides slide tongue end cap onto the bottom rail. Repeat the process for the other side. Ensure that the sliding operation is free and smooth. If a weather strip is required, remove an end cap to slide on and secure in place. Depending on your in-house cutting and welding of awning skins, use the deduction chart in the assembly manual. Cut, square, and weld your awning skins that is appropriate for the awning system you are assembling. Slide the bottom rail onto the awning skin. Be careful not to scratch the bottom rail when sliding on. Centralize the fabric and screw off with screws provided, clamping the fabric into the end cap. Assemble the brackets or end caps depending on what configuration you are assembling. For a spring operation in both zip grip and DeepSides, the main driving spring is always set up on the left-hand brackets. Any helper spring will be set up on the right-hand side. For a gearbox configuration, attach either a 3.5:1 gearbox or a 7:1 gearbox to the cassette end cap. This will be on either the left or right-hand side. For an electric motor configuration, there will be a square drive plate attached to one side of the cassette brackets. The same principle applies to the open brackets. Remember, for a spring operation, the drive spring is always on the left. For the gearbox-operated system, make sure that the gearbox shaft is projected forwards on the bracket. For a spring-operated zip grip and DeepSides system, you will need to prepare the tube and spring for assembly. The spring kit includes a soft spring, spring reducer, and 78mm spring adapter. Insert the reducer by sliding onto the spring and lining up with the spring keyway cutout. On the opposite end, attach the 78mm spring adapter to the drive end of the spring. Ensure that the locating tags are fully engaged. Insert the drive end of the spring into the steel 78mm keyway tube, sliding all the way in and engaging the spring reducer into the keyway tube. Insert the assemble idle end and reducer into the opposite end. For a gearbox operation, there will be a 78mm idle end and a 78mm square drive end. Depending on which side the gearbox control is determines which side the drive and idle ends are on. Insert the 78mm drive and idle ends into the tube. For an electric motor, there will be a 78mm crown and drive adapter. Remember to ensure the crown adapter and tube reducer goes onto the motor before the drive adapter, and secure the drive adapter onto the end of the electric motor. Once the drive adapter has been secured to the electric motor, the assembled motor unit can now be inserted into the tube by lining up the keyway openings in the drive and crown adapter. With either the motor, spring, or gearbox drive end inserted, you can slide the tube onto fabric skin through the keyway tube. Once centralized onto the tube, roll up so the fabric is rolling off the back. If you are assembling a full cassette DeepSides system, attach the assembled end caps by screwing onto the rear cassette. If you are assembling a gearbox-operated DeepSides system, you will need to allow for a cutout a small section to allow the gearbox crank. Measure in 35mm in from the operation side on the front cassette and 45mm up from the bottom. If you are assembling a spring or electric motor system, this step is not required. Your DeepSides awning is now ready to be packed up and ready for installation. Thanks for partnering with Shaw of Australia and the DeepSides Awning System.